Today I'm starting out with my new sketchbook from Vibrant Parcels. It is made out of Arches 185 GSM paper and it is 100% cotton. Once I painted this, I wanted to share all the secrets of painting lavender fields with each one of you. So let's move on to the lesson where we are going to paint this amazing, magical and majestic lavender fields. This painting is really one of my favorites as I really love to paint lavender fields. You can even observe it in my Instagram page that I have painted a lot of lavender fields in the past years, and I wanted to share all the secrets of it with you all. The paper, of course, is 100% cotton, 300 GSM Arches paper. So I would request you all to go ahead with only 300 GSM paper, or else it becomes really tough to keep the paper wet for a longer period of time. Let's move on and paint some billowy clouds now. Billowy clouds is nothing but they are water laden, and while I go towards the bottom I will paint those, as well as I will take the help of the tissue to remove some of the parts of this blue from the paper. I have to re-wet the paper again for painting my bottom clouds. This is an exercise which I have done a lot of times for my florals as well as for my clouds. Of course, if you want to paint detailed clouds, you can go ahead and check out my channel www.vibrantparcels.com, where I have 12 days of winter illustration. You have clouds, you have skies, you have every kind of painting that I have added with detailed instructions and voiceovers. All the paintings are real time, hence whenever you are giving it a watch, you can absolutely paint along with me. This is one of the parts where I am again rewetting the space with the help of my blending brush. I always keep a blending brush handy by which I can actually go ahead and add some water or blend the colors. Blending brush is basically a damp brush. This damp brush really helps you to spread the colors or else even rewet a particular space. I always love to move from top towards the bottom because this really helps me to avoid any kind of smudges. In the meantime, I did apply some water on the bottom area, and now I am going ahead with my Naples yellow to add these small lines. These small lines would really help you to denote the particular space where you are actually adding your lavender fields. I always start with the lighter value, which is majorly my Naples yellow and a bit of my yellow, that is Indian yellow. Once I have added both of these colors, I would go ahead with the darker values, and the darker values are majorly my quinacridone color. Then I am also going ahead with some opera and compose opera. Though this is being used in a very light value, while I go away from the bottom part, I go towards the left top side and towards the right top side, you would see that the colors are becoming more and more lighter. They are at a distance from us, and as per perspective, whenever you paint anything at a distance, it becomes more sense to go ahead and just add only some of the lightest values so that they denote that they are farther away and not much of details are added in that case. This part is pretty simple, easy, interesting, and I have always loved doing this addition to my painting, going from the lightest to the darkest value, adding some more of the blue into the color, or else you can directly also pick up your violet. Though I have composed violet on my palette, you can go ahead with blue as well as pink, crimson, or any other pink that is available and mix up a color that gives a shade something what you are observing right now on the paper. Going with some of my darkest as well as leaving some spaces in between. This is something that I have learned over time. Wet on wet is a beautiful technique, but you need to leave some good amount of spaces. Those spaces are really the highlights for your painting. We are adding some greens, and this green is majorly some of my olive green as well as a bit of burnt sienna into it. Each and every part of a watercolor painting is important, whether you say the sky or the bottom where we are painting the lavender fields. Everything can practically set the mood and the tone of the painting. Tone and the mood of the painting becomes very important for any artist. Over here, if you see, the colors that I'm using for the lavender fields are warm and bright, which means that we are getting into a season which is warm, bright, colorful. Whereas for winter colors, this is majorly blue or else gray or any kind of other lighter tonal values. Those values will practically depict more on the cooler side, which means that the winter is there. Going with the darkest value of my green. Now this green is majorly a mix of whatever I had on the palette. Some blue and a bit of green, that is the darkest, which is majorly my forest green. I would show you the palette which I am using at the end of this video, so that you frankly have an idea of what are the colors that I am always going ahead and using for most of my paintings. This is my floral palette, this is my forest palette, this has been my go-to palette for everything urban sketching, etc. So I will show you all the secrets or all the colors that I have in it, and most of the colors are from various brands that I have added. Hence you can also go ahead and choose any brand of your liking and have a palette which is similar to this one. After I have added some yellow into the painting, I am going ahead with some of my greens. This is the dark value of green, and I am really in love with how I am adding this green part. One important last point that I want to highlight is the details. Now, details is something that all of us like to add, or we may even avoid adding these details. These details, so what it does is it creates a good amount of understanding of where exactly the fields are and how your perspective is working, how all of these lines are converging to one single point. Once I have added these details, in the faraway land, we are going to add a bit of trees and bushes. These are simple dots, and some of the dots I am adding on top of the horizon line, which we did denote earlier. One important tip of watercolors which I want to give you is less is always more. So if you are going ahead and adding less amount of paints or keeping some area in white, adding one or two drops of lines or small area dots, I think that is enough to actually go ahead and depict any kind of subject that you want to paint. For our faraway lands, we did put in some of our dots for the bushes, as well as I did not like to occupy the entire horizon line with that. It is just a depiction, and we have to understand that our painting is not exactly how we want to show in reality. It's not exactly close to the reality, but it is a depiction of the lavender fields in our own imaginative way. Frankly, you can go ahead and leave the painting at this point in time. You do not need to go ahead and make any more changes to this painting. This looks complete in itself, but there is a technique which I wanted to show you, that is rewetting. Rewetting is like that you have already a particular area where you have applied some amount of paints in the first layer, and when you are going ahead in the second layer, you are allowing the paper to practically dry off completely, then going with one light sheen of water with the help of your flat brush. Once that water is there, you can go over it with some pigments and have a beautiful outcome. While you are applying the layer 2, make sure that you are not covering entirely the layer 1, as we do want to preserve the colors of layer 1 and go over in the layer 2, just highlighting a few areas wherever it is necessary. I am adding a few details in the far off land. It's like you have some tall lines or some longer lines to denote the electrical wiring, etc. You can observe me rewetting at this point in time, as I did explain you earlier, going over it with some darker value of purple, and making some lavender fields. Of course, this is more on an abstract way compared to exactly how you see the lavender field. Adding some more water in another part that is left hand side. This part of the lavender field is in front of me, which means that I can see it very well. Hence, I need to do lot more detailing over here compared to what we could have done in any other part, which is far away from us, that is moving closer to the horizon line. While we continue to do this exercise, many of you might be wondering the kind of palette that I have chosen. Over here, I had to welcome the spring season and hence I did choose warm colors, which is majorly around the yellow, orange and some amount of our purple shade. This is majorly an analogous palette. If you want to know more about the palettes, which is analogous palette or harmonious palette, or more about color theory, you can join my class that is there on Vibrant Parcels. You are right now adding another layer, but you can truly observe, as I did tell you earlier, the layer that I did paint in the first go is still visible. That's what is most important when you are adding layer 2, layer 3, layer 4. Your first layer should also be visible, or there should be a light tonal value from the first layer that helps you to enhance your second and third layer. While you continue to paint this, let me give you a quick walk through all the paints that I have on my palette. Aureline, Indian Yellow, Naples Yellow Deep, Senalier Orange, Quinacridone Coral, Cadmium Red, Compose Violet, Greenish Yellow, Olive Green, Forest Green, Royal Blue, Phthalo Blue, French Ultramarine, Indanthrene, Indigo, Payne's Grey, Burnt Sienna, Vandyke Brown. Most of them are from the brands Sennelier, Magello Mission Gold, Winsor & Newton, as well as Rembrandt. I hope you did enjoy this tutorial. By mid of the week, I would be going through a quick flip through over my last sketchbook. So see you very soon on Wednesday with the next video.